It was well past midnight, and I had been lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to the quiet hum of the night like it was trying to whisper something I didn't want to hear. Sleep wouldn't come, not tonight. Restless, I finally gave up. I threw the covers off with a sigh and padded softly through the house, barefoot, headed toward the kitchen for a glass of water. But before I even got to the sink, I noticed the soft glow spilling out from the living room. The lights were still on. That was the night Paul was staying with me. The night everything began to shift. My brother Casey had asked me for a favor. "Please," he'd said, his voice lower over the phone than usual, "let him stay with you for a few days. He needs somewhere quiet, somewhere safe." At first, I didn't ask for details. But when I found out later what had happened to Paul, something inside me softened with hurt. Not pity, not judgment. Just sadness. His wife had cheated, after years of marriage, years of building a quiet, steady life. Just like that, it was all gone. He'd trusted her with everything, and she'd shattered that trust so cleanly the pieces couldn't even be placed back. And I knew what broken felt like. After all, I'd lost my husband Jacob 7 years ago. One minute, we were designing the blueprint for our dream home. The next, he was gone. A heart attack so sudden, it took him away mid-sentence. Our plans quietly erased. I was 60 then. Still felt like I had another chapter waiting. After Jacob died, the book felt closed. And for years since, I'd carried something deep inside me. Not visible, not loud, just this quiet ache, a slow throb of absence. That night was one of those nights. The heaviness had returned, but I didn't know it would become something more. This isn't just a story. It's a slow unraveling. It's about blurred lines, unspoken tension, the kind that begins where grief and comfort accidentally meet, and how even the deepest silence can carry a hidden confession. So if this story touches something unnamed inside you, not romance, but recognition, then maybe it's a story you were meant to hear. As I stepped into the living room, I saw Paul sitting on the couch. He was watching a movie, the soft glow of the television painting his quiet features in moving shadows. He didn't look up right away, maybe thinking I was just passing through. It was a romantic drama, I think. One of those late-night reruns where two characters find each other in unexpected places. I stood there for a moment, glass in hand, hovering near the kitchen archway. I hadn't expected him to still be awake. When he heard me, he turned his head slightly and offered a quiet smile. "Did I wake you?" There was something in his voice, not sadness exactly, but weariness, a strained kind of gentleness. Like someone still waiting for peace to come and unsure it ever would. "No," I said softly. I smiled back. "Just came to get some water." That wasn't a lie, but it wasn't the whole truth either. The truth was I'd never felt more alone than I did in that moment. And maybe, just maybe, I didn't want it to stay that way for the rest of the night. Paul shifted slightly on the couch, gesturing to the cushion next to him. "Come sit, let's watch this together." It wasn't a hard decision. I crossed the room quietly and sat down beside him. The couch cushions let out the slightest sigh under our weight. I sat just far enough to be polite, just close enough to not feel isolated. We watched, or pretended to, but my mind wasn't focused on the movie. My thoughts wandered, circling the shape of his presence beside me. Every moment of the romantic scenes felt like a mirror I wasn't ready for. The soft glances, the closeness, these little things I used to know, used to feel, and then it happened. I shifted slightly, reaching for the blanket draped over the edge, and accidentally brushed my arm against his. It was just a second, a brief, harmless second. I pulled back quickly. "Sorry," I stammered, not daring to look up. My heart spiked with sudden panic. Why was I nervous? Why did something that accidental feel so significant? Paul gave a quiet, careful nod. It's okay, don't worry. His voice didn't sound startled or awkward, just calm, but after that, even in the silence, the air felt changed, not heavier, but more charged. I could feel the space between us, narrow and delicate. The movie continued to flicker across the screen, but I wasn't watching anymore. And I don't think he was either. I couldn't ignore it, the gentle pull, the quiet awareness. Something had sparked. And it wasn't about romance. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But it was emotion. Human emotion. Something neither of us had felt in far too long. We didn't speak about it. We didn't move closer. We both just sat quietly while something unseen passed between us. When the credits rolled, I stood up. "Good night," I said quietly. "Good night," he echoed. I walked back to my room and sat on the bed for a long time. Not to cry, not to think, just to feel. I couldn't name the feelings yet. They swirled inside me. Grief, guilt, warmth, attraction, hesitation, all layered under skin that had been untouched for years. That night I didn't sleep. The restlessness stayed, but this time it wasn't from emptiness. It was something different, something far more complicated. The next morning I lingered in bed longer than usual. Eventually I made my way to the piano, hoping that the old keys would ground me. The soft notes felt like fingers brushing old memories. Jacob, mornings here alone, the rhythm of my life before and after. The keys carried my breath. Each note touched something deeper than words. Then I heard it, a sound outside, a faint step. Paul, out for a walk, perhaps. At first, I barely noticed. It wasn't a surprise to see him moving around early. But then the door opened, and I saw him standing inside, just a few feet away, rain, dust still clinging to his coat. Quiet still, I froze mid-chord. He was just watching me, listening. The music faded, and then he smiled. "That was beautiful," he said. "Honestly, that's the best birthday gift I've ever had." For a second, the air caught in my lungs. I hadn't known it was his birthday, but in that quiet moment, something flickered in my chest. A tiny, unexpected joy. Paul stood there, not as a stranger, not as a guest, not even as my brother's friend, but as a man who was hurting, like me. Someone who understood grief, who carried silence the same way. For the first time since Jacob's death, I began to wonder, what if connection could happen again? Not to replace, not to forget, but to heal together. And that morning, as the gentle hush of a new day filled the room, I knew the night before had changed more than just the air. It had changed us. He said something in a calm, genuine tone that I'd never heard before. "What I just said is true. Watching you for even just a few minutes was the best thing I've experienced in a long time. And did you know I turned 40 today?" It didn't take long for me to realize how much those words stirred something in me. I averted my eyes, trying to balance the swirling emotions with the sweetness of his compliment. Right then, for the first time in years, I didn't feel so alone. And I could sense that something was starting to change. Set up after the excitement of that morning, I found myself looking forward to the evening. Learning that it was Paul's 40th birthday made me want to do something, anything to make the day feel normal, special. Even an idea hit me, and I turned to him. "It's your birthday today," I asked. "Well then, let's celebrate. How about we have some wine and cut a cake tonight?" Paul gave me this surprised smile. "Well, if you're suggesting it, I guess tonight might actually turn out to be fun," he said with a playful glint in his eyes. Then, after a brief pause, he added with a teasing grin, "But there's a catch. You have to play the piano for me again. No getting out of it." Laughing, I tried to shake off some of the nervousness building inside me. "All right," I said, "but only if we open a good bottle of wine and make a proper toast." Even that small exchange, left a deeper impression on me than I wanted to admit. I could feel the emotions bubbling up, but I pushed them aside, telling myself this was just about making things feel normal for one night. It was just a birthday, a little celebration. That's all. But then Paul said something so casual yet so startling, it threw me off. He looked at me with that same innocent expression and asked, "How old are you?" What, 40? I froze for a second. I'd always tried to feel younger than my age, but hearing such an honest compliment caught me off guard. I couldn't help but smile. "Oh, not quite," I said, brushing it off, but it was hard to hide the small spark of excitement his words gave me inside. I felt like I was being pulled in two directions, lost between the warmth he was showing me and the storm of emotions I was trying to keep in check. By the time evening came, Paul and I had opened our wine and settled in to celebrate. As we talked, we got closer. His warmth, the way he paid attention, made me feel at ease. There was something between us, a pull, something growing stronger with every passing moment. Inside, a voice kept telling me to treat this like a normal, ordinary night. But then Paul raised his glass, smiled at me, and asked playfully, but with those lively eyes of his, "So, when are you going to play?" For a moment I hesitated, then I took a deep breath and said, "All right, let's do it." I sat at the piano, letting the melody flow again, hoping it would calm the storm inside me with each note, though I felt something shift, like I was being drawn closer to him even as I got lost in music. Somehow I found comfort in the way he listened, the way he appreciated it, like it was the most important thing in the world. What I thought would be a simple celebration turned into something else entirely. In that moment, it felt like a glimpse of something I hadn't felt in so long, something real. My vision blurred as my fingers glided over the keys. Each note stirred something in me, but I couldn't quite figure out what it was. Paul's voice echoed faintly in my mind, and it felt like my heart and my head were slowly drifting apart. I was so lost in it all, I didn't even know when to stop. My hands instinctively searched for another melody, when suddenly Paul appeared beside me. He placed his hands gently over mine. "You're an amazing woman," he said, his voice soft and a little shaky. "You play the piano so beautifully." His words echoed in my head, leaving a strange emptiness behind. His warm hands over mine had this way of grounding me even as my emotions spiraled deeper. "Come on, you're tired," he said softly, his tone calm and reassuring. "Let's sit on the couch for a bit. I've got a surprise for you." With his gentle touch, Paul guided me to the couch. I still couldn't quite process what was happening, but something about the moment felt incredibly profound. When I sat down, my thoughts were still swirling. Then Paul walked back to the piano. I watched as his hands moved effortlessly over the keys, and suddenly he started playing my favorite melody. I recognized it instantly. It was the song I'd loved for years, the one that always stirred something deep in me. As he played, my heart raced. Every note brought back memories I wasn't ready to face. I just sat there listening as the music filled the room and ignited something inside me. After a while, I couldn't just sit anymore. The melody he played pulled me up, almost like it was calling me. Slowly, I walked toward him, trying to calm the chaos in my chest. When I got close, standing right next to him, I didn't know what to do. "You're really good at this," I said, my voice trembling as I tried to hide how fast my heart was beating. "And you're playing my favorite song." My words hung in the air, echoing in the room as my emotions clashed within me. "Who are you, Paul?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "You're really getting to me. I've never felt like this before." I was completely overwhelmed, confused, excited, terrified, and happy all at once. Our eyes met, and we were so close I could feel his breath. Looking into his eyes, it felt like I was falling into another world. And just like that, time stopped. The way he looked at me made my heart at that moment. It felt like we were the only two people in the world. Everything made sense in a different way in that moment. It felt like the world had narrowed down to just the two of us. Everything else faded away, and suddenly everything made sense in a completely different way. My eyes locked onto his, and for a split second, Nothing else mattered. All the confusion, fear, and racing thoughts just disappeared, leaving only Paul and me. His hands rested lightly on my waist, firm enough to ground me, but gentle enough not to push. My head was spinning, and I couldn't tell if it was the wine or the feelings rushing through me. Without Paul holding me steady, I wasn't sure I'd still be standing. Look in his eyes made me feel even closer to him. And in that moment, his warmth and the sense of safety I felt beside him gave me balance amidst all the chaos. "You need to rest," he said softly, guiding me toward the couch. His words were calming, and the feeling of his hands on my waist both comforted and unsettled me. When I sat down, his hands lingered there for a moment longer, and our eyes locked again. I had no idea what to say or how to feel. The warmth of his touch made the night unforgettable, powerful, in a way I couldn't quite explain. That night on the couch turned into one of the most thrilling, unforgettable nights of my life. Everything happened so quickly that I barely had time to process it all before morning came. When I opened my eyes, I got up and walked toward the living room. The smell of coffee wafted in from the kitchen, pulling me out of my half-asleep state. And there he was, Paul, standing in the kitchen, shirtless, making coffee. His body, still warm and strong from the night before, was on full display, and me, well, thinking back to last night, sent this strange sensation through my whole body. My nightgown and underwear were still scattered across the floor. Just the memory of it all made me feel nervous yet excited at the same time. Replaying the night in my head only made me feel more confused. What was going to happen now? How could I even begin to figure that out? But one thing was clear. There was a connection between us I'd never felt before this night. This moment felt like the start of something that could change my life forever. Paul turned from the kitchen and looked at me, his eyes soft, his smile warm. There was this silence between us, thick with unspoken words. As I stood there watching him, I tried to figure out what was happening, what I was feeling. Everything was such a mess. I had no idea what to do next, how to move forward. It was like I was lost in that moment, completely caught up. But at the same time, I could feel something shifting, and I knew there was no stopping it. Standing there as Jessica, all I could feel was this mix of excitement and confusion swirling through me. Since last night, I hadn't been able to make sense of anything. Everything had happened so fast. Clothes were still on the floor, and as I glanced at them, I closed my eyes for a second, shaking my head slightly. Everything was so complicated. I couldn't tell what I was thinking, let alone what I was feeling. I quickly got up and headed for the bathroom. I needed a shower. I needed to clear my head, to step away from the whirlwind of emotions. I was drowning in my nightgown and underwear, stayed right where they were. I didn't care about the mess. All I wanted was to lose myself under the stream of hot water, to escape the chaos, even if just for a little while. After a while, I stepped out of the shower, wrapping myself in a towel. And then suddenly the door opened. Paul was standing there. I froze for a moment. Neither of us moved. Our eyes met and held locked in a gaze so intense it felt like the world stopped spinning. I didn't know what to do. The confusion and emotion in my eyes must have been obvious, because I felt completely exposed, vulnerable, and yet somehow I couldn't stop the words rising to the surface and spilling out of me. "I don't even know what's going on," I said, my voice trembling just a little. "What we're doing, I know it's so wrong, but it feels like I'm dreaming." Paul took another step closer to me. His eyes were filled with so many conflicting emotions. Neither of us knew what was going to happen. I wanted to say something in that moment, but the words just wouldn't come. "Your coffee is ready," Paul said, his voice a little shaky. As my eyes drifted to him, it hit me how messy and yet strangely beautiful everything was. I didn't think about the future. I just lived in that moment. As I sat down with my coffee, the confusion in my heart was still swirling. Sitting with Paul, our eyes locking, remembering what happened between us. It had all happened so fast, I could barely keep up. What had we done? What did we feel? I wanted to say something to make sense of it all, but finding the right words felt impossible. "Jessica," Paul started, his voice strained, "what we did was so wrong. I know that. Why did we let this happen to us?" His eyes showed guilt, but there was also understanding. He knew, just like I did, that things had spiraled out of control. We should regret this, shouldn't we? We never should. Have you done it? There was a pause. My thoughts were tangled, but finally I found my voice. Yeah. Maybe it all happened so fast, but no, it wasn't right. We let things get too complicated, and now looking back, it just feels like none of it makes sense. This was a mistake for both of us, I said. There was a weight on my chest, but also a strange relief in admitting that we'd both gone too far. Paul stayed quiet for a moment, staring at the floor. Then he looked up at me. Let's pretend this never happened, Jessica, he said, his voice steady but soft. I think for both our sakes we need to leave this behind. What good could come from dragging this on, especially when things are already such a mess? We need space from each other. He said that. Something inside me resonated. He was right. Continuing this would only hurt both of us. Yeah, I said, taking a deep breath. Maybe this is for the best. If you leave, maybe that's the solution. It's probably the healthiest choice for both of us. Paul nodded, his expression firm. I need to do this, he said. It's the right thing for both of us. We sat in silence for a few seconds, just looking at each other. In that moment, we both realized how important this decision was, accepting that what we had done, those dark moments, were just a mistake, facing that truth might be the first step towards setting things right instead of dragging each other down in such a tangled way. Giving each other space felt like the only way forward. I hope you enjoyed my story. It's been such an exciting journey, and sharing it with you has truly made me happy. If you'd like to hear more stories like this, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you'll be the first to know when a new episode drops. Also, your likes and comments mean the world to me. Hearing your thoughts and feelings really keeps me motivated. Your support helps me so much in creating more. Thank you all so much, and I'll see you in the next